How's it going, traders? Hopefully you guys enjoy this weekly Forex forecast, and make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel. Alright, starting things off with the US dollar Cot Report. The past week the banks added 1,597 long positions and they got rid of 208 short positions. And remember, if you do want this Cot Report spreadsheet for lifetime access, check out the Patreon membership down in the description down below. And looking at the 4-chart layout here for the US dollar this past week, it did not really move too much in my opinion. If you've been following my forecast for a while, I've talked about this demand zone on the weekly chart at 101.118, and I said price will probably hit this weekly demand zone. But as you can see here, we've just been going sideways the last couple weeks, and not a lot has actually taken place. If we pop into a daily chart, we almost reacted off of this daily supply, and there's actually a daily demand zone down at 100.685 that we could easily pull back into. So as far as whether we should be going long or short the US dollar, it's really all going to depend on what you think is going to happen on the higher time frames, like the weekly chart. Do you think we will hit that weekly demand I pointed out and react to the upside, or do you think it will continue to fall? If you think it's going to continue to fall, then obviously you could hop in short. And if we look at a 4-hour chart here, we still have a decent 4-hour downtrend just on a technical level. But yes, this is kind of just going sideways right now. So it's really not very clear on what we should be doing. At the end of the day, I think we still have room to fall on the US dollar. And at that point, if we do fall to that weekly demand that I was pointing out earlier, then at that point, we can start to actually look for longs again in the US dollar. But I would definitely wait for 101.118 at this weekly area of demand that I pointed out earlier. I would definitely wait for this weekly demand to be hit before even thinking about getting in long on the US dollar. Alright, on to the forecast for the Euro US dollar. The past week the banks added 9,464 long positions, and they also added 2,099 short positions. Now in last week's forecast, I talked about this as well, but I want to point it out in this week's forecast as well. We are currently inside of weekly supply on the Euro US dollar. Now we are very deep into the supply, so in my opinion, it is looking like we are going to break this weekly supply, but who knows, that might not take place. And like I said last week, there is this 3-month area of supply that begins right up here at 1.10, where I think we could easily rally up to this 3-month area of supply and then have more of a long-term downtrend in the euro again. So that is my long-term perspective on the Euro US dollar. As far as trading it this week goes, we have to consider a few things. So since we are reacting off of that weekly supply, and it is very possible that we see the euro turn around, because looking at a daily chart here, we are in a pretty steep uptrend and we are definitely due for a pullback. Now that does not mean that we are 100% due for a pullback. Nothing is 100%. But if we are going to pull back, we have to look at this daily chart to see where we're going to pull back into. And in my opinion, that will be to this daily demand at 1.06. So we are seeing evidence that the euro is looking like we could start to pull back. Whether or not we make it all the way down to that daily demand it's not really clear on that. But let's say we do start to look for short trades on the Euro US dollar. This is where I would be looking to take profit at this daily demand at 1.06. So mark that out on your charts. And like I said, we are starting to see evidence on the 1-hour chart here. You can clearly see that right now we have a very clear 1-hour downtrend. And how do we pull back to daily demand, that's much lower? Well, the only way that that's possible is if we start to see trends on the lower time frames compared to the daily chart. And the 1 hour is lower than the daily chart. So in my opinion, this 1-hour downtrend that we see on the euro right now is evidence that we could be starting to see the euro start to turn around. Now, the next step of evidence I would need to see is a significant drop in the 4-hour chart right here. So if you look at the 4-hour chart, there's really no trend line here at all. And the only relevant demand zone is down here at 1.06. So in my opinion, the 4-hour chart isn't really going to give us a good signal for shorts. But if we do get some sort of sharp move down like this, leaving us with 4-hour supply, that would be another indication that the euro is going to fall down to that daily area of demand. So in the meantime, as far as trading it goes, like I said, we have a 1-hour downtrend. So in my opinion, I wouldn't even consider getting in long the euro just yet until we can remove this 1-hour downtrend. If we can remove this 1-hour downtrend and get a 1-hour uptrend, then at that point I think looking for longs is fine. But in the meantime, we have a 1-hour downtrend. So if you're looking at day trade like a 5-minute or a 1-minute time frame, that's what I'd be doing right now as far as shorting, because like I said, we have a 1 hour downtrend, so we want to be trading with that 1 hour downtrend with a relative time frame, which would be the 1 minute or the 5 minute chart. And if that is not clear, please just comment down below and I will happily clear things up for you. All right, on to the gold forecast. The past week, the banks added 6,437 long contracts, and they also added 2,004 short contracts. Now, looking at this weekly chart here on gold, we have finally touched this weekly area of supply at 1943. And it's a pretty strong area of supply in the chart, and it's definitely possible that this supply, we react off the supply like we already have, and we push down to this weekly area of demand at 1811 on gold. I think that is definitely a possibility that we see something like this take place on gold. I personally believe that whether or not we just break to the upside or we pull back first and go up, I personally think gold will be going to all-time highs and breaking above 2,000 again. But what do you guys think? I'm interested to see, and comment down below for a chance to win a silver membership on Patreon or YouTube, and everything is included that you're seeing on the screen in the silver membership. Comment down below what you think is going to happen on gold here, whether or not you think we're going to break the supply or get a reaction off the supply and push down and break down on demand and maybe break lower. So I'm interested to see what you guys will think. So comment down below, like I said, for a chance to win a silver membership. And like I said, I think we will be pulling back to this weekly demand, possibly, and then a push up. But it's also possible we are just basing up here for another leg up, pullback, and a reaction off demand here, but we'll have to see what is going to take place. Now, if we go down to the lower time frames, we are not seeing any evidence on the daily chart that price is starting to turn around. But obviously, we have such a steep upper momentum that we could easily pull back here on gold. So I'm not seeing any evidence of the pullback just yet on the daily chart. But if you come over to a 1 hour chart, we can start to see the evidence that price is pulling back start to build up, where we have demand zones being taken out. We had the upward trend line on the 1 hour chart removed, leaving us with supply and a possible trade here, but you might have been stopped out. But at the end of the day, we are seeing small amounts of evidence that gold is starting to pull back. Now, it doesn't mean we should just be hopping on short yet, because just because we are reacting off of a weekly supply, it doesn't mean we should just be shorting a 1 hour supply zone. What I would be personally doing here on gold to look for shorting opportunities is something like this. So for shorts, since we are reacting off of weekly supply that I pointed out, we need to be looking for confirmation on a 4 hour chart. And what that's going to look like is something like this, where we not only remove this demand, but we also remove the upward trend line. And then if we're left with a 4 hour supply zone, that is the trade. That is your 4 hour short confirmation trade coming off of weekly supply above. So that is the only way I would enter in short. There's no way I would enter in short unless we get something like this, because we need to see evidence that demand is being removed and this upward trend line is being removed before we just hop in short. Now, getting in long is also risky because we are reacting off of a fresh weekly area of supply. So in order to get in long, and sorry, I don't know if I said short there, but I meant to say long. But anyways, so in order to get in long, it's definitely risky because of the weekly supply that's in control. So if you're looking to get in long, we need to at least see this 4 hour supply removed at 1948. And if we're left with a 4 hour demand zone, you could use this 4 hour demand to look for a 15-minute day trade confirmation in. And that is the only way I would enter in long on gold, based on the idea that weekly supply is in control. And I don't think getting in long is the best idea, because like I said, we could be pulling back to 1811, but who knows, we could continue to rally up, and if this 4 hour trend continues up, like I said, and we break that 4 hour supply, then I think longs are good. But since we are reacting off of weekly supply, I think it's best to use maybe like 0.5 risk, half risk, quarter risk, whatever benefits you. USDJPY forecast. The past week, the banks got rid of 3,164 long contracts, and they also got rid of 1,838 short contracts. Now, to keep it very simple on the USD yen, yes, there's no trend on the weekly chart here. We are currently just going sideways, but momentum is obviously down if we're looking at this time period. Now, we are reacting off of this weekly demand zone at 128.299. So we could definitely be looking for longs. It doesn't mean we just want to hop in long and trade against this downward momentum on the weekly chart. So we need to see evidence of price turning around. Now, in order for that to take place, there's two options. There's an aggressive option and there's a less aggressive option. The less aggressive option, which is what I mostly prefer, is something like this, where your confirmation to the long side would be removing this daily supply at 131. And if we're left with daily demand, that would be your confirmation trade. Or you could use the daily demand to look for a lower time frame trade to the long side. That is the more conservative confirmation trade. Now, the more aggressive trade would look something like this, where if you come to the 4-hour chart, since we're in weekly demand, it would look something like this, where we remove this downward trend line, this supply at 131.42, and if we have the 4-hour demand there, then you could use the 4-hour demand to look for a day trade inside of that. So that is the more aggressive entry would be looking for confirmation on the 4-hour, and the less aggressive, more conservative entry would be looking for confirmation on the daily chart. So that is what I'd be looking for as far as looking to trade long on USD yen. As far as trading short goes, if we pop back to this daily supply, if we do pull back to this daily supply, and let's say you do want to wait for this supply to be removed before looking for longs, but at the same time, you could also be looking for short trades coming off of the supply as well. So if we do pull up to this daily supply at 131, you could look for a 1-hour confirmation trade short. That is one option for a short trade. The second option is this. If you come to the 1-hour chart, we have a clear demand zone here that's holding up price at 129.096. So if we can get this 1-hour demand removed, that's holding up price, leaving us with 1-hour supply, you could use that 1-hour supply to look for a day trade inside of that. So that's the only thing. Those are really the only two options that I would be looking for to look for shorts on USD yen, especially since we are coming off of weekly demand. All right, on to GBP. And before we get started, I just want to give a shout out to a Patreon YouTube member, Rob, who has been killing it lately in the Forex market. He recently took a trade off of my GBP 4-hour demand zone. So what he did is he used my daily chart analysis. He found this 4-hour demand zone, and he actually hopped down to a lower time frame and got a day trade off of this 4-hour demand zone. And that is exactly the purpose of using my supply and demand zones to use in your trading. And if you want to get in on these trades, like Rob has been doing and all the other members have been doing using my zones, check out the Patreon YouTube membership, where you can get my daily chart analysis, like I said, on a daily basis. And there's also other options, membership options as well. If you look on the screen right now, you can see that I have 3 options. There's the bronze tier, there is the silver tier where you get access to private live streams, a private Discord group where we are talking daily during market open, private live streams every Sunday where we go over any markets you want, custom chart analysis, and a whole lot more, as well as confirmation trading video series. And the same thing goes for the gold membership as well, except for you get alerted when I invest in a stock. So those are all the membership options. Just wanted to bring that up to you guys, and we'll be happy to see you guys join the team and hop in on those trades like Rob has been doing. So congratulations to you, Rob. Really good job. So as far as the pound goes now, the call reports are showing that the banks got rid of 6,713 long contracts, and they also got rid of 7,476 short contracts. Now, if we pop over to this daily chart here, I just wanted to see something here first. We actually did remove that high, so now we have the ability to draw the upward trend line, and I'm just going to draw it something like this. So in my opinion, here on the pound, we do have a pretty significant daily uptrend here on the pound. And as far as trading it goes now, it is confusing. If you look at the weekly chart here, momentum is clearly up. I thought we would be pulling back to this weekly demand. Unfortunately, we couldn't get the pullback. So at that point, we have to just continue to trade with the trend. If price wasn't inside, if price didn't already react off of this 4-hour zone that Rob pointed out, then I would have said you could have maybe looked for longs in there, or just however you want to trade, just trade with the trend. But for now, we are kind of just going out in a rectangle pattern. So one thing I notice here is on the 1-hour chart. If you want to continue to trade long on the pound, which I think is probably the best idea, we need to see things change on this 1-hour chart. As you can see here, we're just kind of basing out. We're going sideways on the 1-hour chart, and we are reacting off of this supply at 1.24 right here. We've reacted once, twice, 3 times, coming in for a 4th test. So what we need to see take place is this supply removed on the 1-hour chart, and if that happens, then that proves to me that the not only the 4-hour trend and the daily uptrend are going to continue. So we need to see this 1-hour supply removed. If we're left with 1-hour demand, you could either use this 1-hour demand and look for a day trade in, or you could look for set and forget trades. However you like to trade, I think long is going to be the best option as soon as we can get that 1-hour sideways market start to change, because then at that point you would be trading along with not only weekly upper momentum, but also a very consistent daily uptrend. All right, on to the forecast for USDCAD. The past week, the banks added 8,535 long contracts, 5,081 short contracts they added as well. So looking at the weekly chart here first on the USDCAD, remember, I've been talking about this for a while. There is profit margin down to 1.317 at this weekly area of demand. And in my opinion, the USDCAD is looking very weak, especially on the lower time frames. It is more visible. If we come over to a daily chart here, you can clearly see that we recently broke this daily area of demand, leaving us with supply up above at 1.34. So if price does pull up to this daily supply at 1.345, you could look for a 1-hour confirmation trade short down to that weekly demand zone that I was just talking about. So I would set an alert at this daily supply zone, maybe right before it. And if it gets hit, like I said, we could be looking for a short trade down to that weekly area of demand, especially since there is profit margin to the downside. And I would actually look to maybe take profits at about 1.319 at this daily demand zone. And in my opinion, this daily demand zone is extremely strong. So I would look to take profits at shorts at 1.31. As far as longs go, I'm really not liking it for longs. Actually, I did talk about this in last week's forecast. There was this 4-hour area of demand here, and I said longs aren't looking great, but we could look for longs coming off of this 4-hour area of demand. And if we look, if we go down to a lower time frame, like the 50-minute chart, you can clearly see something here, and this is just absolutely incredible in my opinion. In last week's forecast, I talked about this 15-minute area of supply on the chart and how we needed to see it removed for confirmation trade to the long side. And if you look, we had not only one, but 2 reactions off of this 15-minute supply zone before we eventually broke it. And so I just wanted to point out the amazing how amazing supply and demand is, where not only is it finding opportunities for you to trade, but it's also knowing when not to trade and when to see which zone needs to be removed before we get in long. Because if you would have just entered in long up here thinking it's going to break, you would have been burned again. And not only that, when price finally did remove the zone, there was no real zones down here to be going in long for. This zone was way too big to be taken. So I just wanted to point that out, the power of supply and demand and the power of waiting for specific zones to play out and to be removed before we just hop in long and continue to trade for looking for confirmation. So just wanted to point out the importance of that. As far as USDCAD goes now, like I said, as far as shorts go, we could wait for that daily supply to be hit, but at the same time, we also have a clean 4-hour downtrend. So if you like to trade, day trade, if we have a 4-hour downtrend, we could be looking for shorts on a 5-minute or a 50-minute chart, all depending on what you like. Because we also have a 1-hour downtrend, which means that we could be looking for shorts on a 5-minute chart as well. So since we don't have a trend on the weekly chart, don't have a trend on the daily chart, we either need to wait for this daily supply to be hit to look for a short, or you just trade with the 4-hour and the 1-hour downtrend short using the 5-minute or the 50-minute chart. All right, on to the Aussie US dollar. The past week, the banks added 873 long positions, and they also added 424 short positions. Now, before we start to get in detail here on the Aussie US dollar, just what I'm looking at right away is these 2 charts, my top left screen and my bottom left screen. What I'm looking at, in my opinion, is pretty decent weekly momentum, and not only that, a very strong daily uptrend. So at that point, we need to be continuing to focus our attention on longs. So if we come to a 4-hour chart here, the Aussie US dollar, I actually pointed this out in the private Discord group, this 4-hour demand zone. But price never pulled back to that demand zone, unfortunately. So that's pretty unfortunate. But this 4-hour demand zone would be decent to look for a 15-minute confirmation trade in, as long as price doesn't take too long to get there. And by the time it pulls back, we're right around the trend line. At that point, I'm not a fan of taking that trade. But if we can get the pullback sooner to 0.70 to this 4-hour demand zone, we could look for a long trade coming off of that demand. So we have a clean 4-hour uptrend. So that is one option, to wait for this 4-hour demand to be hit and look for longs. There's also a few other options, but we need to see something play out first. If we come to the 1 hour chart here, we clearly had a very strong 1 hour uptrend, reacted off of the 1 hour demand that I had for the members, reacted up, pushed back down, reacted off of again, but we created supply. Now we are just kind of basing out going sideways on the 1 hour chart. So in order to trade set and forget trades where we're just looking for long trades on a pullback and just setting an order to the upside, if you don't know what set and forget trading is, I have a tips playlist video in the description down below where I do have a couple videos on set and forget trading, so definitely check that out. But in order for that to take place, we need to see this 1 hour supply taken out and this high to continue the 1 hour uptrend before we just start to look for set and forget trades long. And also, if we do remove this 1 hour supply like this and we're left with 1 hour demand, since we have a daily uptrend, you could look to trade long at that 1 hour demand. But obviously that hasn't taken place yet. If it happens throughout the week, I will have that out for the members, that 1 hour zone that ends up breaking the supply. So that's what I'd be doing here in the Aussie US dollar. Of course, it's possible to look for shorts too, but I wouldn't, looking at this 4 hour chart, I don't think we should be looking for shorts until we can get something like this to take place where we remove this 4 hour demand and the 4 hour uptrend. And if that takes place and we have a 4 hour downtrend, then at that point, I think shorts for day trading are on the table, especially since we could easily pull back to this daily demand at 0.69 on the chart, where we could then probably kind of refuel for a larger push up on the Aussie US dollar. All right, looking at USDCHF forecast, the past week the banks added 1,272 longs and they got rid of 295 shorts. Now right away, looking at my 4 chart layout, I'm not loving this chart. The weekly chart is just going sideways. The daily chart, the momentum is down, but we're near demand, so it's just extremely confusing. So in my opinion, we have to be focusing on the 4 hour chart and the 1 hour chart. Now this 4 hour chart, we technically have that 4 hour downtrend. So in my opinion, shorts are probably the best option on day trading timeframes like the 1 minute, 5 minute, or the 15-minute chart. But it's really not super clear. If we come to this 1 hour chart here, you can clearly see this 1 hour demand zone that's holding up price. If we do get the removal of this demand zone, and if we're left with 1 hour supply, then you could look for a day trade confirmation trade coming off of that 1 hour supply, but that has not taken place yet, so it's really not very clear. I would actually rather wait for a 1 hour trend before shorting. So when we have two higher time frames like the weekly and the daily chart just kind of going sideways and not showing clear direction, it's actually just best to probably not trade it, in my opinion. So I personally won't be trading USD Swiss this week. I see no reason to. But like I said, if you really want to trade it, you pretty much got to stick to day trading, because the only trend I see here is on the 4 hour chart, even though technically the daily trend is down as well. But it's more just a lot of downward momentum, not as clean of a trend as I would like to see. All right, on to crude oil. Last but not least, the banks added 8,939 long positions and they got rid of 1,642 short positions. Now, remember in last week's forecast, I pointed out this daily supply zone at $80.68. I said we're either going to react off the supply to the downside, which is lower odds because it has been tested once before, or we are currently just basing up here for an explosive move to the upside where we will pull back to weekly supply. But if you look at this last daily candle here, you can clearly see we have a lot of downward pressure on the oil chart. So I haven't really seen the evidence that we are basing up for a leg up just yet on oil. Remember, if we do get that taking place where we do have an explosive move to the upside, we will probably be pulling back to $87.25 on oil, where we will then probably react to the downside off of that weekly area of supply. So that would be the target to the long side if you are looking for longs. $87.25 would be my long target. As far as shorting it goes, I'm not a huge fan because we are right around that daily downward trend line. But at the end of the day, we are in a daily downtrend reacting off of daily supply. So I think shorting, it's not amazing in my opinion based on several reasons, but it could definitely work. Now, the problem with that as well is that this supply zone here at $81.77 on the 1 hour chart, it's not a good supply zone, so I'm actually not liking it at all. So what I would prefer for shorts is something like this, where we get a push up, a push down where we break the low, and we have a clean 1 hour downtrend. At that point, I think shorts are certainly on the table because, yes, we are reacting off of daily supply, but I'm suspicious of that supply, and I personally still believe it is just we are just basing up for an explosive move to the upside. That is just what I think is going to happen here on oil. So in order for us to prove that the daily supply is going to hold, I need to see that 1 hour downtrend, like I said, before just hopping in short. So that is what I'd be waiting for here on oil before getting in short. So I would just be waiting to see what happens first around that daily supply, because like I said, we could just be basing up where the banks are just using the opposite side of retail traders, where they're trying to short the trend line, and maybe the banks are buying for a push up. So in my opinion, it's best to just wait for the 1 hour trend to start before getting in short. Hopefully you guys found this weekly Forex forecast helpful. If you did, make sure to let me know in the comments down below. Leave a like and check out the Patreon or YouTube membership if you need help finding your supply and demand zones. It's only $5 CAD per month. Hope to see you guys there, and hope to see you in the next video.